I hate this bull market. Of course, I'm a human being. I don't like seeing my portfolio going down this much as I was too early. And I think you've got the exact same question and the same concerns. So that's why we're going to discuss in this update what's next, what my game plan is, and what my vision is. So let's get started. OKX is the first crypto exchange to get the MiCA license in Europe. To celebrate this milestone, they are running a campaign for new users where you can get up to 50 euros back in Bitcoin for relatively simple tasks. You can check the details in the link below. On top of that, they also have the lowest fees and publish their proof of reserves, so you know your money is safe. If you're still looking for a crypto exchange, sign up to OKX to receive the welcome bonus and start trading with the lowest fees. To be honest, it's incredibly annoying that crypto constantly gets the spotlight when there is something shady happening in the markets. And it's not the good things that happen within crypto that gets the media spotlight. No, it is surrounding meme coins or anything related to it. And that is not giving people the confidence to step into the markets. As in the past few months, we've seen several cases of media attention into crypto, which of course we had Javier Milei launching his own coin, launching or whatever, promoting his own coin, where Hayden Thomas making or made 100 million of profits out of it. And now Milei is facing charges for his 4.6 billion crypto scandal. At least that is what Forbes is publishing at this point. And Forbes is something that's being shown to many people. So it's again media attention into a topic that is not really productive for crypto. This entire thing was the entire top of the Solana meme coin fiesta. Hayden was saying that in order to have a good launch, they need to snipe their own coin to prevent other snipers to get a lot of their supply of the actual asset. The fact that you need to do that is topic one. And the second thing, it shows that launching a meme coin in that regard is not there yet. So it just provided the actual top of that fiesta. And that's why Solana is going down. And then finally, we had a slight bump of the markets going up, and then Bybit got hacked for 1.4 billion. It is by far the largest hack to date ever, also outside of crypto. But I'll get to the point really soon. But if we look at the news spotlights, then it is all about the crypto hack. And here is an example of the Dutch media where the title is saying that Bitcoin drops beneath 85,000 euro after the biggest crypto hack ever. In theory, that is true. We have seen a crypto hack, but it's not the entire story. Ben went live for 2 hours on Twitter answering all questions. Even he tweeted out that he had 350,000 people withdrawing their funds from Bybit, which equals around 4 billion in crypto assets, which is, I think, around like 20% of the overall client assets that they have, and they have all processed those withdrawals. Additionally, good side notes, Ben wasn't really experiencing stress during the situation. And you're not experiencing stress during such a situation if you know that everything is there and that you can solve the actual problem, which is different than what we experienced 2.5 years ago with Sam, who was shaking during all the presentations that he had during that period. So, first of all, insane performance of Bybit to cover this within 72 hours and basically returning to normal while losing 1.5 billion. And the reason that they could be doing this was that because they had one-to-one proof of reserves. Now, let's change that reality to if this happens to a bank. If a bank gets hacked and loses 1.5 billion, it needs the government to step in to cover the costs. You can't withdraw any funds. So the moral of the story is actually that the crypto hack in itself is definitely something bad, but it's part of technology that keeps advancing. But within 72 hours, the entire ecosystem stepped in, assisted Bybit, and solved the issue where everybody could get their money. So that is actually such a positive outcome for crypto. But as a result of this all, we've seen the markets literally tank in the sense that Ethereum dropped beneath 2.4k in US dollars, which is the lowest point in the past 1.5 years. We saw Bitcoin lose its range and drop beneath 90k, which is the lowest point in 6 months. However, something interesting is happening in the markets, and that might signal that we're going to have a relatively controversial reversal. So let's have a look at the markets. Now, the past 2 years have been extremely disastrous if you were into utility coins. And utility coins are the actual real products that are going to provide yield. But they have a long horizon. And in the past years, we've seen that people wanted to go even heavier on the risk curve, jumping into the Solana meme coin fiesta, which for some people have resulted into tremendous results, but for most, 97%, it ended up by losing money. Now, that has been happening, but there are some interesting charts that I think are showing that we are on the verge of a bull market and not a bear market. So let's talk about the price action on the markets. And the first chart that I have here is a very beautiful purple line, which is the ETH Bitcoin chart. So the price and the candles that you can see here, that is basically the price of gold. And the purple line is ETH valued in Bitcoin. What it tells is that if the markets are risk off, and the definition is risk off is that they tend to go into treasury bonds or into gold, that is a period where you don't really see momentum in the altcoin market. So if you go back in time, we saw that gold started to run up. In that period, we see ETH versus Bitcoin to weaken. We can see that there's another case here where gold started to break out in 2018 all the way towards the peak in 2020, a 2-year bull market. And that resulted into a case where ETH versus Bitcoin also didn't provide any returns at all. As a matter of fact, it crashed. Then we have a consolidative period for a year on gold, and that is where risk on started to do well, so altcoins started to outperform. And as you can see, the same is the case for the recent 2 years. A very steep bull run on gold, which is the heaviest we've seen in the past decades, where gold ran from $1,600 to close to 3,000. And in that same period, ETH versus Bitcoin, so basically risk on, started to go down. And this entire story is comparable to the story that we've told about the yields that need to fall, the dollar that needs to fall. But it shows that at this point, the topics are that gold continues to be in a bull cycle. And theoretically speaking, it is in a long-term bull cycle, but it doesn't really show that it goes up for 5 years straight. It has those windows of sideways action. And if that is going to rotate, it is going to provide the trigger for the altcoin markets to go up. And I believe that markets turn when nobody expects it. So the actual main topic that people have on this is going to change the momentum on the markets is usually not the right one. It's usually out of nowhere with a trigger that is going to happen. And this week, we've seen some interesting momentum on the altcoin markets when it comes to the price action that we've seen. And one of the interesting ones is the fact that Solana starts to die down. There was a chart that showed the amount of new coins that have been created on pump.fun, the amount of return that people have while trading on them, the amount of uses. They are all on a 1-year low. So basically, after what happens with Libra, people are done with that actual case of the markets where it starts to become comparable to the DeFi bull run that we had in 2020. And this chart, Solana versus ETH, shows that there's a massive bearish divergence indicating that Solana valued in Ethereum is likely going to drop And if that is the case, and we also know that likely gold is going to peak out, that probably provides an argument for Ethereum to go up. And if Ethereum goes up, then every play that has utility is going to have a higher beta and a higher return if ETH has a certain return. Then on top of that, during the week, we had a pretty heavy crash on the markets. For instance, optimism dropped all the way sub $1. Bitcoin dropped beneath 90K. And while Bitcoin was dropping beneath 90K, it continued to fall. And as a response, altcoins were going up against Bitcoin. That is a strong signal. It shows that there is a momentum shift in the market. And the reason that those altcoins were going up is because yields have been hitting a lowest point in 4 months. Gold started to have a correction and the dollar started to weaken. And it's expected that Trump is going to continue having that policy. So there's a very strong correlation between gold and the altcoin markets. And that's what we can see here when it is about optimism versus Bitcoin. It reversed the loss against Bitcoin. So I think that is the actual crucial trigger for the altcoin markets to turn. And while the expectations are that altcoins are dead, people are still relying on the 4-year cycle. I think the markets are in for an actual surprise. So there are a few important things that I would like to discuss with you when it comes to the markets and when it comes to having a portfolio in these markets. First of all, what has happened doesn't need to continue to happen. Historical performance is zero proof for future perspectives. It has happened. It's not going to happen again, or likely it won't. If you ask someone in 2021, they would have said that the markets continue to rally. If you ask someone in 2022, then they would be saying, well, the markets are likely going to continue to fall. Almost always, the markets do something else than what you're expecting. So that's why the markets are super difficult to address, as your emotions based on historical performance is getting fueled by social media, but your rationality for future performance should be bigger than your emotions. Second, if you feel like you would want to quit, don't. The markets are very likely being suppressed because it's the final time that big players can manipulate the markets because the markets are unregulated. On social media, you can see some tweets where bodies are actually moving assets around. And in order to have a position, they want to have the lowest price and they want to push you out of the markets. So the game is not to get out of the game. It is to stay in the game no matter what. And what I learned is that the more you need to combat your emotions, the more it is a struggle, the better the results will be and the happier you will be with those rewards. I know the markets have been an absolute nightmare and being in altcoins has been relatively rubbish, but that doesn't stay this way. Either we are all completely wrong. Sergey is doing something that is not helpful for the markets. And if we are wrong, then we go back to where we started. We just continue to have a regular job, nothing changes. But if we are right, we need to stick to our positions. And if we are right, we are able to live a life of financial freedom for the rest of our lives by just staying in our positions for, let's say, 12 to 18 months. So I'm betting on the last one. And I would advise you to do the exact same. I'll see you again on the next update. Ciao!